The night was cold, the kind that seeps into your bones no matter how many layers you wear. Outside a lavish, brightly lit restaurant in the heart of the city, life moved fast. People in expensive coats laughed as their breath formed tiny clouds in the air. Among the rushing crowd stood a thin girl, maybe 17, her clothes worn but carefully patched, her hands tucked inside the sleeves of an oversized sweater. Her eyes, however, were the most striking thing about her. They weren't dull like those of someone who had given up. They held something rare, quiet hope mixed with exhaustion. She watched through the glass as waiters carried steaming plates to tables where food was often left untouched. Hunger twisted in her stomach, but she didn't move. She had been here before. She had learned to wait for the right moment. And then she saw him, a man in a dark tailored suit, stepping out of a sleek black car followed by 2 guards. He was clearly someone powerful, a millionaire perhaps, used to the world bending around him. But what neither of them knew that night was that their worlds were about to collide in a way neither could have imagined. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of unexpected miracles, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to The Gentle Truth. Your support keeps these heartfelt stories alive. She didn't approach him immediately. She waited until he sat at the corner table near the window, surrounded by luxury and silence. The restaurant was the kind of place where everything was polished, from the silverware to the smiles of the staff. She stood outside, shivering, watching as his plates arrived: steak, mashed potatoes, roasted vegetables. She knew the routine. Rich men rarely finish their meals. When he finally pushed his plate aside, picking up his phone to check messages, she gathered every ounce of courage she had left and stepped inside. Her steps were hesitant but purposeful, her eyes lowered, her voice soft when she asked the question that had become both her shame and her survival. "May I have your leftovers, sir?" The words were simple, but when he looked up, their eyes met, and something shifted. The man, David, had spent years in boardrooms and banquets, surrounded by people who smiled for his money, not his soul. He had everything, a chain of companies, cars, homes, but inside, he carried a hollowness that money couldn't touch. The last time someone had looked at him with honest eyes was his late wife. Her death had turned him cold, detached. So when he looked into the girl's eyes, something unfamiliar stirred. She wasn't begging for pity. She was asking for survival. He froze, caught off guard by the quiet dignity in her face. The staff rushed forward to remove her. Embarrassed, but David raised his hand to stop them. He motioned for her to sit. Shock flickered across her face. She wasn't used to kindness in places like this. Slowly, she took the edge of the chair, clutching the sleeves of her sweater as if ready to be thrown out any second. David told the waiter to bring a fresh plate, not just scraps. She tried to refuse at first, confused by this unexpected generosity, but when the food arrived, the aroma broke her restraint. She ate slowly at first. Then, with the hunger of someone who hadn't had a warm meal in days, David watched silently, something inside him unraveling with each bite she took. Her name was Lily. She had been living on the streets for months after her mother's death. Her father had disappeared when she was a child, and the system had failed her. She cleaned car windshields at intersections and collected bottles for change. But winter had made even that nearly impossible. She never asked for money, only for what people would throw away. And yet, even in her worst moments, she had held on to a small notebook in which she wrote her dreams: to finish school, to work, to have a warm bed. That night, as she spoke softly about her story, David felt something break inside him. For the first time in years, he listened, not as a businessman, but as a human being. Days turned into weeks. David couldn't shake her from his mind. He started noticing how easily the world overlooked people like her, as if they were invisible. He had once built his empire believing in merit and strength. But Lily's quiet resilience showed him a different kind of strength, the kind born from survival, not privilege. One evening, he returned to the restaurant, hoping to see her again. She was outside, shivering in the cold, but when she saw him, her face lit up, not because he was rich, but because he had seen her. He offered her something she never expected: a chance, not charity. He arranged for her to stay in a small guest house on his property, connected her with a social worker, and enrolled her in night classes. At first, she was wary. People often help to ease their own guilt, not out of genuine care. But David didn't smother her with pity. He gave her space, respect, and tools to rebuild. Slowly, Lily began to bloom. The girl who once stood outside shivering now had a warm room, books to study, and the safety to dream again. For David, Lily's presence thawed something frozen in him. Her laughter echoed through halls that had once been silent. She didn't remind him of what he had lost. She reminded him of what was still possible. It wasn't a love story. In the romantic sense, it was a story of two broken souls mending through kindness. Lily became like the daughter he never had, and David became the guardian she never expected. Years later, Lily walked across a stage in a modest cap and gown, diploma in hand. In the audience, David stood with tears in his eyes, clapping louder than anyone else. She wasn't the girl begging for leftovers anymore. She was a woman who had fought through storms, and a man who had rediscovered his heart by seeing hers. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to The Gentle. Truth, your support helps spread stories that remind the world kindness can change lives. Kabri special request. Share in the comments if you believe one act of kindness can change someone's entire story. Your words might inspire someone else to take that first step.